Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Somerville City Hall on this auspicious evening. I'm Alderman-at-Large Jack Conley, and I am the senior member of the Board of Aldermen. I will tell you I'm over 60, that much I will say for the moment. I'm going to hereby call this 2017 organizational meeting of the Board of Aldermen to order on this 9th day of January 2017. I am very pleased to note the attendance of His Honor the Mayor, Joe Curtatone. In addition, we are very well graced by the presence of Mayor Emeritus, the Honorable Eugene C. Brune, and our former Mayor, the Most Honorable Dorothy Kelly Gay, who are also with us this evening here in the chambers. So how about a big round of applause for those people? Thank you, and most well-deserved. I'm going to ask now that all the members of the board and the school committee and all the officials and members of the audience please rise for the posting of the colors by the Somerville Police Department Honor Guard and remain standing for the opening prayer and the salute to the flag led by John Long, our city clerk. Gentlemen.
Let's begin this meeting with a prayer. Lord, we serve in this legally constituted body of government to defend and advance the rights that you have provided all men and women, including the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. We ask that you guide our discussions and decisions and help us fulfill this commission with wisdom and honor. Amen. And now let's join a salute to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, and members of the audience, please be seated. And Mr. Long, the city clerk, will now call the roll. Mr. Long.
Alderman Connolly.
Present.
Alderman Rossetti.
Present.
Alderman Sullivan.
Here.
Alderman White.
Here.
Alderman McLaughlin. Alderman Houston.
Here.
Alderman McWaters. Here. Alderman LaFuente. Alderman Niedergang. Here. Alderman Davis. Here. And Alderman Ballantyne. Here. Mr. President, 9 aldermen are present, 2 are absent. We have a quorum.
Thank you very much, Mr. Long, and that the next item of business of the Board of Aldermen will be the election of a president for the Board of Aldermen for the year 2017, and the floor is now open for nominations. Alderman Sullivan.
I nominate William White.
Nomination, Mr. White, do you accept the nomination? Additional nominations for the office of President of the Board of Aldermen.
Move to close nominations.
Motion to close nomination. All in favor, say aye. Opposed, nay. The nominations for president are now closed. I will now ask that we ask the clerk to call the roll for the assent of the vote for Alderman White as president of the board.
On the vote for Alderman White, Alderman Connolly.
Alderman Bill White, yes.
Alderman Rossetti.
Alderman White.
Alderman Sullivan.
William White.
Alderman White.
Alderman White.
Alderman McLaughlin. Alderman Houston.
Alderman White.
Alderman McWaters. Alderman LaFuente. Alderman Niedergang. Alderman Davis. And Alderman Ballantyne. Mr. President, 9 aldermen have voted in favor of Alderman White as president for 2017. 2 members are absent. He has been elected.
Congratulations, Bill White. You can see Bill White's no hand at this. He's already up there to receive the oath of office from City Clerk John Long. Go ahead, John.
Alderman White, do you solemnly affirm that you will faithfully perform the duties incumbent on you as President of the Board of Aldermen for the year 2017 in the pain of the City of Somerville, Commonwealth, Massachusetts, under the page of penalties of perjury? I do. I ask you to take this pen, please, and sign a statement to that effect for opening that honor. Congratulations, President Barber.
I am passing the gavel now to the 2017 President, Bill White, who will preside from this moment on. Congratulations, Bill. Thank you.
Thank you all, and I hope we have an equally productive year this year as last year. The next item will be the election of a Vice President for Board of Aldermen for the year 2017. The floor is now open for nominations. Alderman Sullivan.
I nominate Katiana Ballantyne.
Any other, let's have a second, just for, we used to do that in the old days, so was there a second? Alderman Houston seconds the motion. Are there any other motions? Seeing none, is there a motion to close nominations by Alderman Sullivan? Is there a second to that? Alderman Davis, any opposition to that? Seeing none, the nomination for Vice President is closed with one name in nomination, Katiana Ballantyne. Do you accept, Alderman Ballantyne? If the clerk could please call the roll.
There's a roll call vote. On the election of a Vice President for 2017, Alderman Conley, how do you vote? Alderman Rossetti.
Alderman Ballantyne.
Alderman Sullivan.
Katiana Ballantyne.
Alderman White.
Alderman Ballantyne.
Alderman McLaughlin. Alderman Houston.
Alderman Ballantyne.
Alderman McWaters. Alderman LaFuente. Alderman Niedergang. Alderman Gewurz. I'm sorry.
Bringing back memories, huh?
Wow. I swear when I checked this 10 minutes ago, it was Davis. Alderman Davis. And Alderman Ballantyne. Mr. President, 9 aldermen voted in favor of Katiana Ballantyne, 2 are absent. She has been elected Vice President.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Congratulations, Alderman Ballantyne. If you would come forward for the oath.
Alderman Ballantyne, please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly affirm that you will faithfully perform the duties incumbent on you as Vice President of the Board of Aldermen for the year 2017 to the City of Somerville, Commonwealth, Massachusetts, under the pains and penalties of perjury? I'm going to ask you to sign a statement to that effect. Congratulations, Mr. President.
Alderman Ballantyne now moves to recess to allow the organizational meeting of the school committee. Seeing no opposition, this meeting stands in recess.
I'd like to call this meeting of the 2017 School Committee to order. Madam Secretary, will you call the roll?
Certainly. Mr. Roix?
Present.
Mr. Futrell?
Here and ready.
Ms. Palmer?
Here.
Mr. Green?
Here.
Ms. Batone?
Here.
Ms. Norman?
Here.
Alderman White? Here. Mayor Curtatone?
Present.
8 present. We have a quorum.
Fantastic. I will now happily read the city clerk's certification of the Ward 6 election. I hereby certify pursuant, to the complete results submitted to the Board of Election Commissions to my office on December 19th, 2016, that Paula G. O'Sullivan was elected to the school committee on December 6th, 2016, by the inhabitants of Ward 6 of the city of Somerville qualified to vote as the Ward 6 school committee member. Ms. O'Sullivan, will you please step forward and be sworn in?
I, say your name,
I, Paula G. O'Sullivan,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will bear true faith and allegiance
that I will bear true faith and allegiance
to the Commonwealth
to the Commonwealth
and will support
and will support
the Constitution thereof,
the Constitution thereof
under the pains and penalties of perjury.
under the pains and penalties of perjury.
I, say your name,
I, Paula G. O'Sullivan,
do solemnly swear and affirm
do solemnly swear and affirm
that I will faithfully and impartially
that I will faithfully and impartially
discharge and perform
discharge and perform
all the duties incumbent on me
all the duties incumbent on me
as a member of the school committee
as a member of the school committee
of the city of Somerville,
of the city of Somerville,
according to the best
according to the best
of my abilities and understanding,
of my abilities and understanding,
agreeably to the rules and regulations
agreeably to the rules and
of
regulations
the Constitution
of the Constitution
and the laws of the Commonwealth
and the laws of the Commonwealth
and the pains and penalties of perjury.
and the pains and penalties of perjury.
I state your name,
I, Paula G. O'Sullivan,
do solemnly affirm
do solemnly affirm
that I will support
that I will support
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
and the pains and penalties of perjury.
and the pains and penalties of perjury.
Very good. Now I'll ask you to sign that statement. Congratulations.
I'm Okay. We are very excited to start working with Ms. O'Sullivan, who is attending her first committee meeting tomorrow night. So we get them to work right away. I next would like to read another certification from the city clerk's office. I hereby certify that the Board of Aldermen's certify that in the Board of Aldermen's organizational meeting just recessed, Alderman William A. White Jr. was elected as president of the 2017 board. Pursuant to the city charter, he will now serve as an ex officio member of the school committee of 2017. And I think second only to the mayor and the longest serving on the school committee. That is, we are very excited to continue to work with you, Mr. White. There you are. Our next order of business is to elect a chair and a vice chair, and without objection, we will now suspend the rules, and we will now elect a chair by voice vote. I will now accept nominations for chair.
I nominate Laura Patone.
Is there a second?
Second.
There's a nomination by Mr. Green, seconded by Ms. Palmer. Are there any other nominations for chair? Hearing now, I will now accept a motion to close the nominations. I move, is there a second? All those in favor? Aye. We are now closing the nominations. We now will vote on the main motion, which is to elect Laura Patone for the chair for the 2017. Madam Secretary, will you please call the roll, and please remember to say the name of the person you're voting for.
Mr. Roix,
Laura Patone.
Dan Futrell,
Laura Patone.
Lee Palmer,
Laura Patone.
Andre Green,
Laura Patone.
Laura Patone,
Laura Patone.
Paula O'Sullivan,
Patone.
Carrie Norman,
Laura Patone.
Alderman White,
Laura Patone.
Mayor Curtatone.
Laura Patone.
Unanimously, and congratulations to the chair for the 2017 school year, Laura Patone.
Yay, congratulations, Laura. Please.
Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly affirm that you will perform the duties incumbent on you as chair of the school committee for the year 2017 for the school committee, City of Somerville, Commonwealth of Massachusetts, under the pains of police of perjury? I do. We can ask you to sign a statement to that effect right there. Congratulations.
Thank you. The next order of business is to elect a vice chair. I will now accept nominations for the vice chair.
I nominate Andre Green for vice chair of the school committee.
Second.
Second. So, all right. Are there any other nominations for vice chair? Okay. All right. Hearing none, okay. Okay. I move to close, all right. All right. All in favor of closing nominations? All right. All right. We will now vote on the main motion, which is to Andre Green as vice chair for 2017. Madam Secretary, will you please call the roll?
Mr. Roix,
Andre Green.
Mr. Futrell,
Andre Green.
Ms. Palmer,
Andre Green.
Mr. Green,
Andre Green.
Ms. Patone,
Andre Green.
Ms. O'Sullivan,
Andre Green.
Ms. Norman,
Andre Green.
Alderman White,
Being from Ward 4, he is my school committee person, Andre Green.
and Mayor Curtatone.
Andre Green.
By unanimous vote, congratulations to our new vice chair, Andre Green.
Do you solemnly affirm that you will faithfully perform the duties incumbent on you as vice chair of the school committee for the City of Somerville, Commonwealth of Massachusetts for the year 2017, for the pains and penalties of perjury?
I do.
I will ask you to sign a statement to that effect. Congratulations.
It's all right. That's a sign of good luck.
We will now go through the process of selecting seats for the 2017 calendar year. I'm going to ask Carrie Norman and Andre Green to come up and do the selection process. Yeah, the fancy boxes were from Maureen Bastardi, so they're lovely. I will now announce the subcommittees of the school committee. The Finance and Facilities Subcommittee will be chaired by Dan Futrell. Andre Green is the vice chair, and Steve Royks is a member of the committee. Educational Programs, Carrie Norman will chair. Paula O'Sullivan is the vice chair, and Lee Palmer is a member of that committee. And the Rules Committee, Andre Green will chair. Lee Palmer is the vice chair, and Steve Royks will be a member of the committee. And then the next order of business is to adopt the order concerning the rules and regulations of the government of the school committee for 2017. Does someone move to adopt the rules and regulations? Second. You got that? Okay, so you made the motion, or you made the motion? Second, thank you. The motion has been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, I will call for the vote. All in favor signify by voting yea. All right. Okay. I'm going to move, with no other business to be had, I'm going to move to adjourn this meeting. All those in favor? All right, thank you.
I now call the meeting of the Board of Aldermen back into session. It is now my pleasure to introduce the chair of the school committee, Laura Patone, for her address to the community. Laura, come back up here.
Lots of papers. President White, thank you for that introduction. Mayor Curtatone, President White, fellow elected officials on the Board of Aldermen and School Committee, Superintendent Skipper, family and friends, I'm honored to share this night with you and for my new role as the chair of the school committee. I appreciate the confidence and trust you have placed in me to lead and collaborate with the talented people that represent the city of Somerville on the school committee. First, I want to acknowledge and congratulate Paula O'Sullivan, our newest member representing Ward 6. She is filling big shoes, literally, with the resignation of Paul Bockelman, who mentored me and many others with his deep knowledge of the district, ability to both listen and speak thoughtfully, and with great humor. With her professional background in education, and as a parent of 3 children attending the Kennedy and Brown schools, Paula's perspective will contribute greatly to the work of the Somerville School Committee. Thank you, Paula, for stepping up in your future service. I would also like to acknowledge the outgoing chair of the school committee, Carrie Norman, who has led us through a period of great change, both in membership and district leadership. Although our current school committee members are relatively new to the job, there is no shortage of passion, and Carrie has inspired all of us with her generous and thoughtful leadership. She always puts the needs of the children of Somerville first and foremost. Although many of the faces on the school committee have changed, it's just really inspiring to me to look around the room and recognize so many who have served before us. The list is too long to name, many who continue to serve in public office. Your commitment to the city and our schools continues with your current work, and the Somerville Public Schools would not be enjoying its current success without your continued support. Thank you. As a steward of the schools, I also imagine I am not only seeing my predecessors, but hopefully a few faces of those who will follow in our footsteps. For some of us, okay, me, my role in the school committee was not part of some master plan, but a journey I unwittingly embarked on the first day I brought my son to kindergarten at the Healy School 10 years ago. I was welcomed into the school community and greatly supported. as we made for what was for my family a challenging transition. I wanted to give back to the schools, so I got involved doing what I was interested in and leveraging my skills, that sweet spot that makes volunteering really easy. But I realized I wanted to do more for the wider school community. Running for office was an overwhelming prospect, but one of the most exciting and rewarding experiences I've had. I met so many amazing and different people, but the one thing they shared in common was their sincere interest in the students of Somerville. That interest showed itself this November when the community overwhelmingly supported the city's planned investment in the new Somerville High School. Thanks to the High School Building Committee for their time and efforts to consider every possible location, various interests from historic preservation, the experience of current students during construction, to the inspiring educational vision of the future of Somerville High School developed by high school staff, Headmaster O'Terry, and Superintendent Skipper. This vision emphasizes critical thinking skills, collaboration, and an increased connectivity between our career and technical and college preparatory program. I am truly excited to see the future of Somerville High unfold. In addition to plans for a new high school, 2016 brought an increased focus on social and emotional development of students. From enhancing health education in middle schools to strengthening how our staff is organized to identify and meet the needs of struggling students, we have made investments that allow our students to better meet academic challenges and prepare them for life after Somerville Public Schools. Students who are struggling socially or emotionally may not be ready to learn or contribute to their community. These efforts are in direct support of the district's continued commitment to whole child education, a shorthand for the combination of academic, social, emotional, and physical education, including new methods to assess our successes and learn about areas for growth beyond standardized testing. But now, I hope to liven things up a bit by switching gears from assessments to baked goods to illustrate something fundamental about our schools and the work of 2016 and beyond. I was at Lindell's Bakery last week, and the woman next to me made a comment about a young boy and girl pressed against the glass case filled with donuts. They were siblings, and she was impressed to see them happily together, if not slowly, asking for their order. Her name was Barbara, and she was a retired Somerville Public Schools physical education teacher. She then told me about bumping into one of her former students, and although she didn't remember the name of the boy, who she guessed was about 60 now, she did remind him of a collision they had in the gym and pulled up the leg of her pants to show him and me, in the story, the resulting surgical scar on her kneecap. After over 40 years, she still remembers her students, and they remember her. Wow. That's huge. Our educators know our kids, even 40 years later. Our educators put the needs of our kids first. Our educators watch for our children in the community, even after they retire, looking at our future generation with kind hearts and commentary. Attracting and growing, keeping great staff is a top priority at Somerville Public Schools, and Superintendent Skipper has enhanced our efforts. To put it simply, the goal is to make Somerville Public Schools the top choice for quality educators in order to retain and attract the best talent. I use the term educator intentionally, just as Superintendent Skipper does, to include not only teachers, but administrators, paraprofessionals, lunch aides, everyone who works in our schools. They all play a role in educating our children. I believe this will be one of the most powerful ways we improve opportunities for the children of Somerville. There are so many more exciting things I could share, but to keep things brief, I would like to expand on the idea of educators, reflecting on my own experience and reaching out to you, members of the Somerville community. Think about the ways you may have a positive impact on our schools. Consider where your interests intersect with your skills. That sweet spot of volunteering, from tutoring students to asking challenging questions of your elected officials and city and school administration, educating on what our community wants and needs. Thanks to those who are already in the mix, our PTAs, volunteers, and tutors. Great thanks to Superintendent Skipper for her high energy leadership and clear vision. And my personal thanks to those who allow me to do the work I do, my family, my friends, and dedicated colleagues on the school committee. Be an educator, be involved, have an impact, but I warn you, it may be addictive, and the next thing you know, one of you may be standing on this podium or sitting in the horseshoe as one of the next stewards of our city and our schools. Thank you. Thank you. Now it is my true honor to turn the podium to the President of the Board of Aldermen and my colleague this year on the school committee, Alderman William White.
Good evening, everyone. People of Somerville, it's hard to believe that a year has already passed since we were last together at the inaugural. If you recall, part of the theme of my speech back then was a Star Wars theme. Well, just like Star Wars always has a sequel, here's mine. Last year we heard about how our intrepid Jedi Board of Aldermen sensed that there was a disturbance in the force coming and was concerned about the cause. Well, this year we realized the cause as we experienced two severe disturbances in the force. The first was the decision of our evil galactic Governor Baker to impose a $50 million payment in the city of Somerville in order for the Green Line to go forward. Then we saw not only the election of Donald Trump as president, but the Republican Party taking control of the House and Senate. We can gauge the impact of the $50 million charge for the Green Line, but we have no idea of what to expect from the White House and Congress and how they may affect our city. There is already talk of conditioning community block grant development funds, which this city receives from the federal government to help finance programs in our city, especially for the low income and the disabled. We have a number of proposed cabinet secretaries who believe in dismantling federal programs in their very departments that have been in place since before the birth of a majority of people who live in our city. A Republican congressman has already proposed a bill that would prevent communities like Somerville from implementing environmental ordinances such as our plastic bag ban, and it is receiving substantial support from his colleagues, and this is just the start. Although future legislation may restrict our abilities to pass ordinances to protect the environment, nothing should and will reduce our resolve to make sure that all of our residents, regardless of race, color, creed, religion, national origin, ancestry, disability, age, political belief, sexual orientation, or gender identity, have the full rights that they deserve in our city. These unforeseen developments in Washington, D.C. teach us that there are many factors that may have a drastic impact on our programs and finances, but are beyond our control. So as we move forward in debating the very important financial and developmental issues that face us, we must keep this fundamental fact of life in mind. It doesn't mean that we all better hide and quake under our desks in fear, but it also means that we can't risk the city's future on a roll of the dice. Not that anyone here would propose either alternative. Facing these challenges, we have a Board of Aldermen that is well equipped to exercise its role in city government. Let me explain why. One of the strengths of this board is its committee system. Based on the emails and telephone calls that I receive from folks and comments that people make in the street or in the supermarket, it seems to me that many don't seem to realize that this board performs much of the work that is done is in committee meetings. That's where most proposed financial and legislative matters are discussed and deliberated over, many times for months and sometimes for years. Usually only those items that favorably pass through the committee process are actually voted on by the board at our Thursday meetings that people see on TV or read about in the papers. If they don't pass through the committee process, they are usually placed on file or withdrawn. There is no obvious no vote at an alderman meeting, so I fear that because of the way our meetings are covered and the way we do business, some of our residents think that this board acts as a rubber stamp because they are not aware of the items that the board does not pass, nor are they aware of those items that are refined or amended, or the financial items that may not be approved or have their amounts reduced as they go through the committee process. Unlike the U.S. Congress, where the parties relish drawing lines in the sand with nothing passing, we try to work cooperatively with the administration and come up with solutions to the problems facing our city. And let's look at some examples. During the past couple of years, the board expressed concern over the proposed taking of real estate for the construction of a fire station on Somerville Ave. So this item did not move forward. But that wasn't the end of it. We all recognize the need for a new fire station and will work cooperatively with the administration in finding a solution that does not require the taking of real estate by eminent domain. There are also bonding requests that have been submitted to the Finance Committee that were not approved immediately. Some are being refined, others amended. So trust me, for those who think that their real estate taxes are too high, if this board were only a rubber stamp, trust me, those taxes would be higher. Likewise, this board was presented with the proposed zoning overhaul for the entire city. The board expressed strong concerns about many of its provisions, but we simply didn't vote it down and say, forget about it. Instead, we are working with the city's planning staff. I see George Proakis in the office. He's doing a heck of a job towards the submission of a new zoning proposal, which we hope will meet our concerns and the concerns of our constituents. Similarly, we are addressing the proposed rezoning of Union Square that is currently before us with that same level of oversight. I want to commend Alderman Davis, our only freshman alderman last year, and because he's the only freshman, he's going to be the only person mentioned by name, but as chair of the Land Use Committee, he's presided over all of the meetings relating to the new zoning for the entire city, and also for Union Square, and has run a very open and inclusive process for public participation and in-depth analysis by the board. And folks shouldn't think that our board is merely reactive to items that are submitted to us by the administration. I would like to discuss some of the accomplishments of the board on its own items. Last year, this board approved 6 items, 6 ordinances, or amendments to existing ordinances, that addressed a number of quality of life issues that had been presented to us by our residents, such as 1, allowing the Board of Health to regulate dogs on dining premises with outdoor seating, 2, regulating the times that commercial establishments can place trash in the sidewalks, 3, regulating the hours that commercial parking lots can be swept, 4, strengthening our demolition ordinance so that residents can be more effectively notified when buildings in their neighborhoods are being demolished, 5, providing for a warning instead of an immediate fine for the first offense by folks with overgrown grass or bushes, and 6, restricting construction activities in residential neighborhoods during the early hours. Now, clearly, none of these are earth-shattering or what people would say are sexy, but this is us performing our role in responding to constituent concerns, and folks who suffered through a lot of those things, legitimately raised concerns that we addressed. In addition to those, we also amended 2 existing ordinances to give this Board of Aldermen approval authority for increases in water and sewer rates after public notice, and we approved an ordinance to establish a senior citizen water and sewer rate discount program. We also worked with the administration to make some changes, and we passed our revised pay-to-play ordinance, which provides for one of the strictest regulations of campaign contributions by developers and others doing business with the city and the entire country. And when 11 registered voters with an accompanying petition from 511 residents exercised their right to submit a proposed zoning amendment for inclusionary housing, this board spent many hours in meetings working to refine that proposed ordinance. The end result was an ordinance that will not only increase the total amount of affordable units that will be built in the city, but for the first time it adds a new tier of affordable housing for moderate and middle-income families who are being priced out of the city of Somerville. The state legislature also approved 2 home rule petitions that had been previously approved by the Board of Aldermen. One that modernized our requirements for signatures on nomination papers to make it easier to obtain signatures to get in the ballot, and the other was for the establishment of a municipal job creation and retention linkage fee. And last but not least, after performing its due diligence, the Board of Aldermen voted to allow the Proposition 2.5 debt exclusion to be placed on the ballot for the electorate to decide. 65% of the voters approved that question, so the city will now move forward on its construction. The next step is for this board to cushion the tax impact that our property tax owners will feel when the major cost of this item hits the tax bills in around 2022. Now, in addition to doing all of these tasks, the members of the Board of Aldermen submitted 621 orders and resolutions last year to address issues presented to us by residents. These, together with the items submitted by the administration, were addressed at 141 committee meetings. Plus, we had 30 regular and special meetings of the Board of Aldermen. And those numbers do not include the numerous neighborhood, civic, and social meetings that aldermen attend as well. In addition to the proposed zoning overhauls that I mentioned earlier, based on our discussions during the Green Line extension, we can expect substantial bonding requests. It is important to note that the proposed zoning that will be submitted to us will incorporate concepts that are novel in this state and in most of the country. And I anticipate that the bonding requests, when combined with our existing debt, will be of a total amount that is perhaps unprecedented in our city's history. At this point in a speech, traditionally, when there are issues facing the public like this, it's common in the speech for the speech maker to quote from a Chinese proverb, or it's a curse, "May you live in interesting times." The curse, of course, is that by using the term interesting, it means fraught with danger, anxiety, and risk. I had intended to include that right in this point in my speech tonight, but I did some research, and I found that native Chinese professors in philosophy and history say that there's no such Chinese curse, and it was invented by some Western speechwriter. So I guess it's appropriate for me to use an old American expression instead. We can all see that the Board of Aldermen's plate for next year will certainly be more than full. That board consists of 11 members, each with an individual view and philosophy, who will decide those items. In order for any of these zoning or bonding requests to pass, 8 out of the 11 members will have to approve them. The state was wise to require these 8 out of 11 votes on issues that can impact the fundamental nature of a city. I can make no promises or predictions about the outcome of these items, nor would it be appropriate for me to do so. I will never claim to speak for any member of the Board of Aldermen on any issue that is before the board. All I can do is promise that I will do my best as president to ensure that the mayor has a fair opportunity to present his requests to the board, that all members of the board have the opportunity to pose all of their questions and receive thorough answers and information in response, and most importantly, that all members of our community have an opportunity to weigh in on these issues, especially at appropriate public hearings. I guess I can't quote the alleged Chinese proverb, "May you live in interesting times." Instead, how about a real one? If people are of one heart, even the yellow earth can become gold. This proverb tells us that as long as people are unified in their goal, that goal can be achieved. So as long as we are unified in our goal to make Somerville a better city, we can achieve the specific items that we need to accomplish that goal. Let us all keep this in mind as we move forward this year, and of course, may the force be with us all. Thank you. Guess you're on next, right? I guess I introduce you, right? Thank you all. The next, we have the Honorable Mayor, Joseph Curtatone. Mr. Mayor.
Good evening, President White, Vice President Ballantyne, Chair Patone, Vice Chair Green, honorable members of the Board of Aldermen, School Committee, and Somerville delegation, Superintendent Skipper, honored guests, friends, family and staff, former Mayor Dorothy Kelly Gay, Mayor Emeritus Jean Brune, and above all, welcome to you, the Somerville residents. I want to wish you a Happy New Year. Each year, I stand before you at this time to talk about what we have accomplished together over the past year and what will we take on in the new year. This is a special year for Somerville. It marks our 175th anniversary, and I am humble and grateful as always, to serve as the mayor of Somerville, and especially this year as our city rounds this milestone. Of course, I, like you, couldn't do this job without the support and patience of my family. I have one representing here tonight, but I do want to thank my wife Nancy and our 4 sons, Cosmo, Joey, Patrick, and James, who's bringing up the rear for the people at 130 10 Hills Road tonight. Thanks, buddy, for being here. But I want to thank them all for being there for me every day. As we look forward to 2017, I want to focus tonight on resolve. Just days ago, as we do every year, we raised the Grand Union flag at Prospect Hill Tower. The annual event marks the anniversary of the first raising of the new American flag. On that New Year's Day in 1776, when the flag was hoisted atop Prospect Hill by George Washington's army, like today, it was bitterly cold. The future was unclear. There was no nation yet. There was no certain path to victory. But they raised the flag over the highest point of land for all to see anyway. They were determined. They were resolved. For the nation, that moment is a symbol of the unstoppable American spirit that led to a republic founded on liberty, justice, freedom, and equality. For Somerville, it is also a reminder that fortune favors the bold. True to that principle, Somerville itself has become a blueprint for progressive, innovative local government and a leading voice among cities for diversity and social equity. But we are in a decisive historical moment. We have a divided nation. Our president-elect recently referred to the people who didn't vote for him as his enemies. Many are afraid that too much of what we value may now hang in the balance. We live in anxious times. We don't know what's going to happen at the national level. But we in city government can knuckle down and get the people's business done. In Somerville, we pride ourselves on the notion that we're a model community, a place others can look to see how it's done right. In fact, our city motto is, municipal freedom gives national strength. Now, more than ever, Somerville must embody that ethos. Somerville needs to be Somerville. Others need to see our resolve in action. We must continue to strive for excellence in our core services. We must continue to achieve our shared long-term community vision and face our most pressing challenges. We must continue to serve as a beacon for civility, diversity, and social progress. We must show the resolve to move forward with the policies and programs that align with our community values. Somerville has a strength that the nation could sorely use, our ability to come together rather than break apart. That's what we did last year in deeds large and small. That strength and that resolve helped us achieve big things. Now, there's no better example than the way we stepped up when the Green Line extension was in peril. Somerville took a historic vote to save the project, and I'd like to thank the entire Board of Aldermen again for approving the $50 million city contribution that allowed the Green Line extension to proceed. None of us like the fact that the state demanded we pay, but we wanted to honor the will in the decades-long fight of this community. So we made a bold decision. We made the right decision. Somerville delivered. In May, we took another significant step. This one will help ensure that we seize all of the opportunities and benefits the Green Line can provide. We approved the Union Square Neighborhood Plan. The plan sets into motion a community-driven vision for growth in Union Square and Boynton Yards. It calls for more than 15,000 new jobs and more than 12 acres of public space. In the coming months, we will finalize a community benefits plan that likewise honors the values upheld in Summer Vision. And we will work to pass the Union Square zoning that makes all of this possible. Look across the city And you can already see the positive effects we get when we lay the groundwork for economic growth. In the last 2 years, our building permit revenues increased by over 465%. Over the same period, more than 250 new businesses have been added to our local economy. Companies that got their start here are thriving and growing. For one, Greentown Labs is currently expanding here, and when done, will be the largest green tech incubator in the world. Nowhere is our city's recent economic growth and strategic vision more clear than Assembly Row. Our smart investments in community planning are paying off. In fiscal year 16, nearly 1/3 of our new commercial growth was generated by the newest office and retail buildings at Assembly Row. Now that's $26.8 million of new growth in just one fiscal year. And we are already seeing that help our taxpayers. Without the tax revenue produced at Assembly, the tax increase for the average two-family home this year would have been $318. But Assembly drove that down to just $74 instead. And Assembly Row is not fully built out. We expect 2 million more square feet of development over the next 10 years. In Assembly Row and across the city, we are making good on our promise to grow the jobs and tax revenue that Summer Vision calls for. Along with Cambridge, we have the lowest unemployment rate in the Commonwealth at 1.7%. But for too many of our residents, underemployment and wage suppression are a reality. So we must prepare and train Somerville residents to access the quality jobs we create here. That's why in 2016, we upgraded the Somerville High Machine Shop to a facility now on par with the finest factory floor in the Commonwealth. We now train both students and adults for the well-paid jobs in the advanced manufacturing sector. It's why we opened our own fabrication laboratory called Fabville with grant support from the Commonwealth to offer the job training for the 21st century economy. And it's why we worked with our state delegation to get a jobs linkage home rule petition passed. This will generate a permanent funding source for new workforce development programs. And I want to thank the delegation and Representative Barber especially for working to support Somerville workers in getting it passed. Actually, I want to thank the entire delegation for all the work they do on all of our home rule petitions. We've had quite a few. We've created a culture where we spend wisely and get the best return on our investments. As a result, we've never been in better fiscal shape. We borrow cautiously. We don't squander our financial reserves to pay for current operating expenses. Rather, through careful and prudent management, we have expanded our reserves to the highest level in the city's history. Those reserves help our taxpayers. They cushion the impact of the cost of big-ticket investments such as the Green Line, and they are a hedge against any unforeseen fiscal downturn. We are on such solid fiscal ground that we are prepared not just for the rainy days, but to make the next bold investments that will best secure the long-term fiscal health of our community. But make no mistake, we are also prepared to take care of the day-to-day tasks that keep our city running. Just through 311, we responded to and resolved more than 90,000 service or information requests from residents last year. And that's just a fraction of the daily work our fiscal strength makes possible. We spend a lot of time talking about economic growth and taxes and projects, but we should remember that the reason we do all of that is we want to deliver a better quality of life for our residents. And that starts with our children. In 2016, we continue to make historic investments in our schools, and as a result, the Somerville Public Schools once again ranked as the top urban school district for student growth. Congratulations. Our voters chose to make a critical investment in our youth last year as well. They passed the debt exclusion needed to build a new high school, and I want to thank the Board of Aldermen, the school committee, School Superintendent Mary Skipper, and the school building committee. I especially want to thank the residents who helped develop plans for and who fought for the new high school, and the voters who reaffirmed our commitment to our students. On this point, I want to go back to the concept of resolve for a moment. The high school is an enormous undertaking. To many, it seemed almost impossible. The Green Line, too, at times seemed out of reach, but we came together and moved them forward. Projects like the high school and Green Line extension are why we get involved in city government in the first place, to do the things that matter. And it's why we look to you, our constituents, to help guide our policies and decisions for our future. Together, we can do extraordinary and exceptional things. In 2016, our city's overall crime rate dropped more than 21%. That is a testament to our community and the extraordinary leadership of Police Chief David Fallon and his command staff. The Somerville Police Department's commitment to community policing and to creating a police force that is proactive and highly trained has prepared us to meet the needs of a densely packed and diverse city like Somerville. Not to mention that when an escaped federal prisoner crossed into Somerville last week, our officers, along with the states, had him in custody in no time. It's okay to applaud here for the chief. I thank you, Chief, and the entire Somerville Police Department for your excellent work in keeping our community safe and working for positive change. We are striving for safety on our roads and walkways as well. The number of pedestrians and cyclists in Somerville continued to increase in 2016. To keep them safe, Somerville lowered citywide speed limits to 25 miles per hour on most roads, a change that will save lives and prevent serious injuries. I want to especially thank Representative Provo for her work in the legislature that made that possible. We also improved sidewalk repair and maintenance. We introduced higher visibility bike lanes, and we made significant progress in the reconstruction of Beacon Street, which will deliver the city's first protected bike lane. Somerville now ranks 7th nationally for walkability and 4th for bike commuting. We are in the midst of a transportation revolution, one that actually works for the people who live in urban areas. Last year, as we planned for Somerville's future above ground, we also made strides below ground. As I mentioned, Somerville is celebrating its 175th anniversary. Unfortunately, some of our sewer lines are not far behind. The brick and mortar sewer in Union Square dates back to the Civil War. But we're making progress on upgrades. Somerville recently won a $13 million MassWorks grant from the state. These funds will help us reduce legacy flooding issues around Union Square, improve sewer service to more than 20,000 homes, and make possible the development that Summer Vision calls for. We also made progress on our commitment to address the impacts of climate change. We conducted a climate change vulnerability assessment. We completed numerous energy efficiency projects, and we inspired more than 100 homeowners to sign on to install solar panels that will reduce greenhouse gas emissions. But we cannot combat climate change alone. That's why I urge my fellow Metro mayors to unite in pledging to lead the fight against climate change. In November, we all signed a commitment to make the Metro Boston region a net zero, carbon-free region by 2050. Finally, as my distinguished colleague mentioned, there was the election. Well, the outcome of the presidential election was not what many of us wanted or expected. There were positives locally. Somerville saw 8,200 new voters register in the city, and we had the 4th highest turnout in the Commonwealth for early voting, 39.9% of voters. But Somerville turns out every day, not just for elections. Someone recently suggested this tagline for us: Somerville, one big community process with some housing. We're always ready to engage in city discussions. Getting to decisions sometimes involves spirited debate, but that's a good thing. In Somerville, we know that you need to raise the disequilibrium to achieve success, which brings me right to one of our greatest responsibilities in the coming year: passing our zoning overhaul. If we are to continue to make good on the goals of our community, we must pass a modern zoning ordinance that brings the fundamental rules of how this city operates in line with the Summer Vision Community Plan. The people of Somerville came out and told us what they want. They went to meeting after meeting, month after month, year after year. They made Summer Vision a community vision. It's not my plan. It's Somerville's plan. And those of us in city government are responsible for delivering on it. The zoning overhaul is a key step toward that, because zoning touches almost every major issue in our community. I mean, we can't claim to care about making housing affordable for a greater number of people if we're not passing the zoning to make that possible. We can't claim we care about open space if we don't pass the zoning that delineates how we get more open space. We can't say we want jobs and commercial growth, which shifts the local tax burden away from our residents, if we're not going to give commercial developers a better sense of where and what they can build in our city. And we can't claim to care about preserving the character of our residential neighborhoods if we won't change a system in which only 22 homes in our entire city, only 22, conform to our zoning. Just like we stepped up on the Green Line and for a new high school, we need to step up on a new zoning code. We won't get the future the people of Somerville came together to shape if we fail to do this. We need to honor that effort, that will, and that resolve. We have an opportunity to pass the most progressive zoning ordinance to be found anywhere in this nation. Something capable of shaping the future of the city in alignment with our shared community values. It's time we pass zoning. Housing affordability remains a challenge and a top priority, and there is no silver bullet. But we are working on multiple fronts to address the issue. We received the first installment of a $4.3 million in linkage payments from Partners Healthcare dedicated to the creation of affordable housing. We're working with the Somerville Community Corporation to buy 100 homes to preserve them as permanent affordable housing. Thanks to the kind of grassroots efforts Alderman White mentioned that make our city better, we raised our inclusionary housing requirement to amongst the highest in the nation at 20%. And to help our working families stay here, we worked to open our inclusionary housing program to middle-income residents. And we just cut the ribbon for the Union Square Apartments, adding 35 affordable rental units, although 3,400 people stood in line to get those units. I cannot stress enough that we must build the housing that Summer Vision calls for, if not more. Last week, news came that for the first time since 2010, rents are declining in Boston. The decline is credited to their housing construction boom. Now, if we believe Somerville should be affordable for all, then we must do our part to address our housing shortage. To this end, we will continue to work in earnest in the coming year towards establishing a real estate transfer charge that could support affordable housing and other pressing needs. This bold idea was proposed by community members who served on the Sustainable Neighborhoods Working Group, and we are doing the work to make it happen. In 2017, we'll continue our efforts to support our makers and artists. Plans for the art farm at the old waste transfer site are taking shape. It will be the next great public open space, fostering art and urban agriculture programs. The zoning overhaul here, too, is critical because it includes set-asides for makers and artist spaces, establishes arts and fabrication districts and work-live zoning. I mean, if we want to keep the vibrant artist community that has been at the core of this city's modern revival, well, then we need to have its future baked into our zoning. Another challenge we must meet is our need for more open space and better athletic fields. In our Summer Vision Plan, we set an ambitious goal of 125 acres of new open and public space. Now, we will need to be creative to get there. And again, we're not going to get there without the new zoning, which lays out 12 different types of open spaces around new developments. Our fields remain a priority, and our new fields master plan, vetted with the community, now lays out a course for methodical investment in our playing fields so that the people of Somerville can get outside and be active and play hard. In 2007, we will also work with this board and advance our work to make Somerville a standard bearer for fair and open elections. I will call together a Clean Elections Task Force. Their duty will be no less to ensure we pursue the highest ideals of participatory democracy. If we want people to have a vested stake in our future, then we must expand voter participation through inclusive programs and reforms, including early voting in municipal elections. And we must safeguard the right of every voter or candidate to participate equally in our political process. We must resolve to publicly finance our elections if we want to make them clean. And we must be because we must be bold if we want to change the status quo. Now, I would like to close with some words about the people who need us most. We must stand up, especially these days, for one another. That's why we're intensifying our outreach efforts to our veterans through our new Summer Vets program. That's why we're increasing accessibility on city streets, sidewalks, and in our buildings. It's why we hired a multilingual social worker. It's why we're working with the Social Progress Imperative to measure improvements to our quality of life. It's why we are working intensively to provide important resources and support to those affected by the ravages of the opioid epidemic. It's why Somerville will remain a sanctuary city no matter what happens in Washington. It's why we're holding critical dialogue in our ongoing conversation series on racism, LGBTQ topics, and other important social issues. It's why we pointed the lens at ourselves in those open and frank discussions that covered everything from our hiring practices to police policies. It's why in 2017, all of this work will continue. As a city, we have come a long way since our separation from Charlestown those 175 years ago. Our economy is growing and thriving. Our schools are among the best in the state. Our public safety teams have proven that low crime and urban living can go together. Yes, we have work to do. Affordable housing, quality and quantity of open space, social equity and inclusion are the issues that communities across the region and the country continue to grapple with, but together we will tackle them. We will have some tough decisions to make. With the unplanned expense of the Green Line extension and the necessary infrastructure work we must do for our community, we must make careful choices in the coming years on other priorities. We will not be able to do everything right away, but what is clear is that if we stay the course on Summer Vision, if we remain bold and resolved, we will get there over time. The beauty of that plan is that it plans for all of us. It plans for the development that will bring not just the housing and jobs, but the tax revenues and developer contributions that will help pay for the programs, initiatives, and services that will make possible the community we envision for each and every one of us. As we enter 2017, I am resolved to deliver on this city's grandest visions. I am resolved to be the voice for those who need someone to speak up for them. I am resolved to show anyone who cares to look that the Somerville way is the better way. This year, as always, I hope you will resolve to join me and this board in that. We know who we are. Now we just need to be the best version of Somerville that we can be. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This time I'll speak on behalf of all of the aldermen. I'm sure we all look forward to working with the administration this year and moving the city forward. Mr. Clerk.
Mr. President, the next item on the agenda is an order from Alderman Rossetti submitting an order adopting for 2017 the rules of this board as approved on January 14 of 2016.
Seeing no opposition, the motion carries. Next item.
We have an order from Alderman Conley reviving all business pending before this board or its committees at the end of 2016 and recommitting the revived items back to the board or to its proper committees.
On the item, seeing no opposition, the item carries.
We have an order submitted by Alderman Houston that the bonds of the city treasurer and tax collector be accepted and approved.
On that item, seeing no opposition, the item carries.
We have an order submitted by Alderman Niedergang that the city treasurer be authorized to appoint deputy tax collectors.
On that item, seeing no opposition, the item carries.
Mr. President, we have a communication from you establishing the standing and special committee assignments for 2017, as well as several commission appointments.
Thank you. As far as the committee assignments go, there's been no change. The item is placed on file.
Mr. President, the next order of business is the drawing of the seats.
I appoint Alderman Sullivan and Alderman Ballantyne to do the drawing. I don't know what we're going to do. Maybe we should roll the dice for each alderman. You want to roll? Dennis, how's your boxcars there? Have them do it by the microphone so people know.
Tony Lafayette.
Seat 9.
Mary Ann Houston.
Seat 8.
Dennis Sullivan.
Seat 5.
Robert McWaters.
Seat 7.
Lance Davis.
Seat 6.
Mary Jo Rossetti.
Seat 3.
Let's get down.
John Connolly.
Seat 1.
Wait.
Mark Niedergang.
Seat 2.
And lastly, Matt McLaughlin.
Seat 4.
Thank you. Mr. Clerk, is there any further business before this body?
Mr. President, there are no further items before this board.
Alderman Ballantyne moves to adjourn. This meeting is adjourned, but before anybody gets up, I would like to ask everyone to rise as the Somerville Police Department Honor Guard retires its colors. All right, folks, thank you all for coming. There will be refreshments out in the hallway. This meeting is adjourned.
Actually, probably an hour and 20.